The soft hum of the ceiling fan echoed through the dimly lit hospital room. The faint scent of antiseptic lingered in the air, mixing with the sweet fragrance of a vase of lilies sitting on the windowsill. Outside, the world bustled with life, cars honking, birds chirping, children laughing in the courtyard below, but inside this small, sterile room, time felt as if it had slowed to a crawl. The curtains swayed gently with the evening breeze, casting soft shadows on the pale blue walls, and the sound of a heart monitor beeping softly punctuated the silence. On the narrow hospital bed lay Evelyn Turner, a woman of 68 whose once bright eyes now carried the weight of decades. She had lived a life filled with moments of joy and heartbreak, laughter and tears, but as she lay there in her final days, one thought consumed her: her son, Daniel. Her thin, frail fingers trembled slightly as she reached for the pen and paper resting on her bedside table. The paper was yellowed and soft at the edges from being handled too many times, and the pen felt heavy in her weakening grip. She took a deep breath, steadying herself, and began to write. Each stroke of the pen seemed to carry the weight of a lifetime. This was her last letter, the last words she would ever write to the boy she had raised, the boy she had loved beyond words, the boy who had grown into a man she rarely saw anymore. She didn't blame him. Life was busy, people drifted apart, and she had always taught him to chase his dreams, not stay shackled by obligations. But in this quiet moment, all she wanted was for him to know the truth about her love, about the sacrifices she made, about the life she lived for him. "Dear Daniel," she wrote slowly, her vision blurring with tears. The words felt heavy, monumental, as if each one carried a part of her soul. She paused for a moment, staring at his name, and memories began to rush back like a flood, memories of a younger version of herself, of the first time she held him in her arms, of the promises she had whispered into his tiny ears. She could almost smell the faint baby powder, feel the soft warmth of his newborn body against her chest. She had been just 19 when she became a mother. She could still remember the day Daniel was born. It was a rainy afternoon, and the thunder outside had been almost as loud as her heartbeat. She had clutched his tiny body close, her heart swelling with a love she had never known before. At that moment, she had made herself a silent promise: she would protect him, no matter the cost. She would be his shield, his safe place, even if it meant breaking herself in the process. But life hadn't been kind to Evelyn. She grew up in a small town, working class, where dreams were a luxury only a few could afford. Daniel's father, James, had been her high school sweetheart, a charming young man with an infectious smile and big dreams of becoming a musician. They married young, full of hope, but hope didn't pay the bills. By the time Daniel was 6 months old, James had packed his guitar and left, chasing his music career and leaving Evelyn to raise their son alone. She had no choice but to work 2 jobs, a waitress during the day, a house cleaner at night. She could still remember the nights she would drag herself home at 2 in the morning, her feet blistered and aching, only to tiptoe into Daniel's room and watch him sleep. Those moments gave her strength. No matter how tired she was, one look at him made everything worth it. As Evelyn's pen moved across the paper, her mind drifted back to those early years, the hunger she often ignored so he could eat, the times she'd walk miles in the freezing rain because she couldn't afford a bus ticket, the times she'd sew his clothes by hand late into the night. Daniel never knew how poor they were because she made sure he always felt loved and cared for. She remembered one Christmas when she couldn't afford gifts, so she made him a toy out of scrap fabric and wood. When he opened it, his face lit up, and he hugged her so tightly that she cried silently in the dark after he fell asleep. But children grow, and as Daniel grew older, the distance between them grew too. He never knew the sleepless nights she endured, the sacrifices she made behind closed doors. When he became a teenager, resentment began to form. He accused her of not caring because she couldn't attend his school events. She had been folding laundry one night when he shouted, "You're never here, Mom. You don't even care." Before slamming his bedroom door, Evelyn had sat alone at the kitchen table, her hands trembling as tears streamed down her cheeks. She wanted to scream back that she was working herself to the bone just to keep a roof over their heads, but she stayed silent. He wouldn't understand, not then. And so she worked harder. She took on more cleaning jobs, sometimes working 16-hour days, all while Daniel grew more distant. She never told him about the time their electricity was nearly shut off, or how she sometimes skipped meals so he could eat, or how she had quietly sold her late grandmother's necklace to pay for his baseball uniform. All he saw was that she wasn't around. All she saw was a boy she loved more than her own life, slipping further away from her. When Daniel was 14, he got sick, really sick. He had developed an infection that required immediate surgery. The doctors had told her it would cost more than she made in 6 months. Evelyn had sat alone in her car in the hospital parking lot, her hands gripping the steering wheel as tears streamed down her face. She didn't know how she would pay for it, but she knew one thing: she couldn't lose him. That night, she sold everything of value she owned. She took a second mortgage on the house. She started donating blood plasma every week, her arms bruised and sore. Somehow, she scraped together enough to pay for his treatment, and Daniel never knew. He only knew that one day he was sick, and the next he was better. Evelyn kept her pain and sacrifice hidden because she wanted him to grow up without the burden of guilt. She wanted him to feel safe. Years passed. Daniel grew into a brilliant young man, earning a scholarship to college. Evelyn was so proud, but she never told him how many hours she had worked just to afford his application fees, his books, and his plane ticket. She stood in the crowd at his graduation, tears streaming down her face, but he never saw her. He was too busy celebrating with friends. She didn't mind. She had done her job as a mother, she had given him wings, even if it meant he would fly far away from her. Back in the hospital room, Evelyn's breath grew shallow, but she forced herself to keep writing. "I know I wasn't perfect," she wrote. "I missed so many moments. I wasn't there to see you hit your first home run or to cheer for you at graduation. But, Daniel, I was always there. Even when you couldn't see me, I was there, fighting for you, sacrificing for you, loving you in silence." Her tears fell onto the paper, smudging the ink, but she didn't stop. She wanted him to know everything. She wanted him to understand that her love had always been there, even when life had made it invisible. Meanwhile, miles away, Daniel sat in his apartment staring at his phone. He had missed 2 calls from the hospital. Life had been busy: work deadlines, social obligations, and a constant rush to climb the corporate ladder. He had been meaning to visit his mother but kept postponing it. When he finally answered the call, the nurse's voice was calm but urgent. "Your mother's condition has worsened. You should come." Daniel booked the next flight home. On the plane, he stared out the window, memories flashing before his eyes. He remembered the way his mom used to braid his hair when he was a little boy, the nights she'd stay up helping him with science projects, the warmth of cinnamon rolls on Christmas morning. He realized how much he had taken her for granted, how many times he had been too busy to call, too busy to visit. A lump formed in his throat, and he silently prayed he would get there in time. When he walked into the hospital room, his heart broke. His mother looked so small, so fragile, her face pale but serene. Her eyes lit up when she saw him. "Danny," she whispered, her voice trembling with emotion. "Mom," he choked out, rushing to her side, tears already streaming down his face. They held each other's hands tightly, and for a moment, time stood still. All the years of distance, all the unspoken words, melted away in that single touch. "I'm so sorry," Daniel whispered. "I'm sorry for not being here." Evelyn smiled softly, brushing his cheek with her trembling fingers. "You're here now. That's all that matters." She handed him the letter, her hands shaking. "Read this. When I'm gone," she whispered. He shook his head, tears falling faster. "Don't talk like that," but deep down, he knew. That night, Evelyn passed away peacefully, holding her son's hand. The heart monitor flatlined, and Daniel sat in stunned silence, clutching her lifeless hand. He felt as if the world had stopped spinning. His heart ached in a way he had never known before. Later, in the quiet of her now empty hospital room, Daniel unfolded the letter. His hands trembled as he read her words, each one cutting through him like a knife. He read about the sacrifices she had made, the pain she had endured, the love she had poured into every day of his life. He read about how she had sold everything she owned to pay for his surgery, how she had worked herself to exhaustion so he could have a better future. By the time he finished reading, tears were streaming down his face, and his heart felt like it was breaking all over again. Daniel attended her funeral a week later. He stood at the podium, holding the letter, his voice shaking as he read parts of it aloud. "She taught me that love isn't always loud," he said softly. "Love is quiet. It's in the sacrifices no one sees, in the sleepless nights, in the hands that work until they bleed just to make sure you're okay. My mother gave me everything, and I didn't see it until it was too late." After the service, Daniel made a decision. He couldn't change the past, but he could honor her memory. He used his savings to start a foundation called Evelyn's Promise, dedicated to helping struggling single mothers. Every donation, every life they touched, was a tribute to his mother's love. Years later, Daniel stood by her grave, holding a bouquet of lilies, the same flowers she loved so much. The wind rustled the leaves of the nearby trees as he knelt down, tears slipping silently down his face. "I get it now, Mom," he whispered. "I finally get it." He closed his eyes, and for a moment, he felt her presence, warm, loving, proud. Evelyn Turner might have left the world, but her love lived on, not just in Daniel's heart, but in the countless lives he would touch because of her sacrifices. Her story became a reminder to everyone who heard it that love is not always about grand gestures. Sometimes it's about the silent sacrifices, the moments no one sees, the quiet strength of a mother who gives everything and asks for nothing in return. And so, Evelyn's love, immortalized in ink and memory, became a light in the darkness, a reminder that even when life feels lonely, even when it feels like no one sees the effort, a mother's love is always there, eternal and unbreakable.